This is my prayer, oh Lord. This is my prayer, oh Lord, oh Lord. Let me fill his life full of sunshine and gladness.
Trouble in my way,
trouble in my way.
Have to cry sometimes,
Have to cry sometimes. Trouble in my way.
Have to cry sometimes,
Have to cry sometimes.
Lay awake at night,
Lay awake at night.
That's alright,
That's alright.
I know that
Jesus, He will fix it.
After a while,
After a while.
trouble in my way,
Trouble in my way.
have to moan sometimes,
Have to moan sometimes. Trouble in my way.
have to moan sometimes,
Have to moan sometimes.
lay awake at night,
Lay awake at night.
That's alright,
That's alright.
I know that
Jesus, He will fix it.
after a while,
After a while.
said stepped in a fire,
Stepped in the
a
furnace
long time
a
ago,
long time ago.
and me
Shut back me, shut
been vinegar,
and I've been to go.
they weren't worried,
They weren't worried.
so I was told.
Hello, and welcome to Expressions of Faith. I'm your host, LD Shannon, and this show is produced by Miss Gloria, Chestnut. Our special guest today are Mr. Jimmy Hill, manager of the Supreme Queens, and the Supreme Queens that you will hear from later. So help me welcome him to the show. Hello, Mr. Jimmy Hill. How are you?
Well, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great, and how you doing?
I'm doing fine. You know, before we go any further, I would just like to thank you for all that you do for the All Stars and all that you're doing now for the Supreme Queens. And, you know, it's just a pleasure each time I'm in your company. And, like, again, I say thank you for everything.
Thank you. I just love the All Stars, and now with the new group, the Supreme Queens, which we're going to get to a little bit later. But let's start off with you, Mr. Jimmy Hill. So I understand you started professionally playing at 16.
Yes, I started taking music lessons as a child. I owe a lot of credit to the Lighthouse Music School for the Blind, for also to Catherine Ray, who was the wife of the late Reverend Sandy Ray, you know, from Cornerstone.
Right.
I studied with her for a while, and also I played in my school band, and that's how I really started playing professionally.
So how did you get like into music? But before you started playing in the band, was that something? How did that come about? Because you know we all get a skill and a talent, but they something happens along the way when you're like a small child that maybe your parent might see that you had a little bit of music in you someplace.
Well, my parents had sent me to music school to be a classical musician.
Okay.
But, you know, I always had that feel that I kind of loved rhythm. That was just the whole thing, period.
Well, you know we
And,
got soul, so we got to do a little bit of a little bit more than classic,
and I grew up in a Methodist church, and for a while I was scared to let loose with the music. But, you know, I kind of found my own way, and that's how I started really fooling around with different rhythms, and ended up started playing R&B. In fact, I ran into my teacher, I guess about 10 years ago, one of my teachers from when I was a child, and she said, "You know what? I knew that you were going to be a professional musician." She said,
Exactly.
because every time I'd go out of the room, you would sneak and play something else besides what you were supposed to be playing.
Exactly. But no, but Jimmy, that's the good thing because see, you can play rock and roll classic, jazz, and you play gospel. So
Right.
when we want to shout and praise the Lord, we can do that. Or if we want to hang out in the club, every now and then, that's okay. And that's good because it's like a balance. It's almost like a balance that you know how to play all these different types of music.
Right. But you know, one thing, music in a lot of cases is it's just music until you put words to it.
Right.
Uh, you can take a gospel rhythm and without any words, people will be dancing to it. People will just be moving. They all they know is they feel the rhythm. But it's once you put the lyric to it, then that's when you get to change and it gets put into a category.
Yeah, because when you put words to a song, it particularly if they're words that mean something, because I hate music today that doesn't mean anything to me and I don't get anything out of it. But when you have a song that has meaningful words, it just means a whole lot when you listen. And sometimes music have changed people's lives and even saved people's lives.
Well, I say that um, even as far as today's music, when I think about Ty Tribbett, Kirk Franklin, Donnie McClurkin, and so many others who have brought the young people out of the streets. And we have to look back when we were growing up, and we would think about James Cleveland, Mahalia Jackson, Shirley Caesar. Um, our parents thought the same thing. As far as some of the quartet music, they would say,
Exactly.
"Oh, that's too much like rhythm and blues."
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's what brought a lot of us into the church again from out of the clubs.
Right, but the only thing,
Yeah.
Jimmy, is I don't want to happen
Mhm.
is I don't want it to be sounding too much like in the club when I'm in church because sometimes that music get to go in the church and you can't tell whether you in the club or you in the church now. So we don't want to go overboard with it. But I mean, I think it's good, for the youth to be able to change up music in the church and stuff. But you have been such an inspiration to young people and to even older people. You have played with the best. You've been out there with Maxine Brown, Baby Washington, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and you was on the TV show
David Letterman.
David Letterman's. Oh, when I saw y'all on TV that night, I was like jumping up and down. Oh, there go Jimmy Hill's band on on Letterman's show. That was wonderful. That
Well,
was good that night.
I'm going to tell you a story about that. Uh, we don't know what God has in the plan.
Exactly.
And there was a young lady who left a James Brown album at my house when I was about, I guess, 13 years old. She brought it over, and I still have that album up until this day because she forgot that she had left it there and she never came back to get it.
Mm.
And that was my start of really kind of getting into James Brown music, never expecting to really become a band leader with a James Brown impersonating band. Uh, so many, many years later, Charles Bradley, which we all know as also Black Velvet, James Brown Jr.,
Right, right.
he came in from California and he called me and he said, people have told me a lot about you and I'm looking for a band. Well, at that time, we didn't put the band together. But later on, I guess about 10 years later, we got together and we did a show, a blues festival out in Westbury. And after that, everything else became history.
I know, Black
Yeah.
Velvet. We know about him, so we're running out of time. But very quickly, I just want to congratulate you on taking over the new group, the Supreme Queens, which was formerly directed by Mr. Cliff Driver, who passed away. That was a good friend of yours and ours.
Right,
And
right.
we miss him dearly.
Oh, yes,
But
we
the
do.
new group, Supreme Queens, those girls are bad. They're bad. We're going to hear
Thank
from them
you.
later.
Right.
So when we come back, we're going to come back with the Supreme Queens. We'll be right back.
Right. Okay. Thanks again.
What have you done, brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
What have you done, brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
Done wrong to the one that you. Oh, and you took no heed what you've done. What have you done, my brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
I said, what have you done, my brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know you told your lies without the shame. And then you run around, spread lies on someone else's name. You know you twisted. You think you said oh no, but you twist a little tongue. I can't twist one. Oh no. Listen up. Happy for what you've done. Yeah. I wanna hear you tell me what have you done?
Have you done? Have you done?
I said, what have you done?
Have you done? Have you done?
Be sure anybody else
Have you done? Have you done?
running around.
Have you done? Have you done?
Be sure anybody else
Have you done? Have you done?
all the time.
Have you done? Have you done?
What have you done?
Have you done? Have you done?
I said, what have you done?
Have you done? Have you done?
I said, what have you done?
Have you done? Have you done?
What have you done?
Have you done? Have you done?
For what you've done.
What have you
What have you done, my brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
What have you done, my brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
Done wrong to the one who loved you. And you took no heed to the one who loved you. You know you change your ways and and then you turn around and wander straight on. Listen up, at the end. You know you're sorry for what you've done. What have you done, my brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
I said, what have you done, my brother?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know you told your lies without the shame. And then you run around, spread lies on someone else's name.
Hello, and welcome back to Expressions of Faith. Now joining me is our special guest, the Supreme Queens. Now, these ladies are bad. When I tell you they're bad, you are in for a treat tonight. So help me welcome them to the show. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
How y'all doing? Okay, well, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Okay, so we're going to start on this side.
Singer, New Yorker for the last 17 and a half years. And yeah, I've been singing for almost as long, my whole life, really. So.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tomiko.
Oh, that was short and sweet. Okay.
Hi, I'm Cynthia, Brooklyn born and raised, and again, singing a lifetime, start from church as always.
My name's Aisha Curtis. I've been with the group for two years. I've been singing all my life. I'm also Brooklyn born and raised. So yeah.
Hi, Tanya Yet Willoughby is my name. Everybody calls me T, and I'm also known as Tanya B. I'm one of the singers of the group. Started out in church, like Cynthia, and worked with some really great people like Luther Vandross and people like that. So I'm really glad to be a part of this group.
Well, good. Thank you. Isn't it odd how everybody start out in church?
I think that's very common. It's very common.
Yeah, it's like everybody
That's your
starts
first
singing in church.
experience. Always.
I think that's a
always.
good place to start, because because even if you make a mistake, they're gonna say what?
For love
Amen.
and
What
take
they
it for
said.
love. Take it for love.
If you make a mistake, they say amen and take it for love. Exactly. Yeah. So now, how did the Supremes come together? I know you was formerly managed by Cliff Driver, who's passed on, and we miss him a whole lot. So what was that like when Cliff put you together? How'd you all come together?
Well, being with Naomi Shelton, Gospel Queens, starting off with Cliff. People tend to go their ways and start things. And so Cliff, was venturing out on his own, and so I was right there with him. And at that time, we had Aisha, and then Tamiko was new to the board. And like I said, at that point, we then had Brandy, and we had T on board, and so we were going back and forth. But it definitely was a new experience. We were looking to go the same route that the previous group had gone, and so this way, these ladies could experience, what we've been doing, for several years. So definitely was a great loss. He was a great man. But
he was.
we have his comrade over there, Jimmy Hill, which
Yes,
I think
for
was on
Jimmy.
earlier
Yes,
and
for
will
Jimmy,
be back.
Jimmy Hill. Yes.
So he passed into the hands of a great one, a
Yeah.
great one. Because I know Jimmy a lifetime as well. So we all grew up in that same little circle, meeting at church as always, meeting at church.
So now, what can we expect with the Supreme Queens now, moving forward? Besides the good singing.
Bigger and better. I mean, I
Bigger.
know that Jimmy definitely has a lot of plans for us to move forward and do a lot of things, in terms of touring and traveling on the gospel circuit and doing more festivals and performances outside of even New York City and New York State. So, as we grow and we expand past Fat Cat, we'll see where it takes us.
And even some recording.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know you're at Fat Cat every Friday. So someone tell us about that, about Fat Cat. I know you be at Fat Cat rocking, so I know I've been down there. So
Yeah, we're there every Friday.
From 9 o'clock, 9 to 10. God willing, long as they're open and we're willing, we'll be there. There you go. Just like the song says, we'll be there. So we are there.
But what is that like? Because that's kind of different setting.
Very
how did
eclectic.
the people respond to you there? Because that's a different type setting at Fat Cat.
It's interesting because it's a younger crowd, and it's not a religious crowd, obviously. But you have a lot of different people there from different backgrounds and different religions, or not religious at all. And the music that we're singing isn't necessarily for just people who are religious or even Christians. We're singing music that is uplifting. We're singing music that is positive and that has a positive message, which is something that anybody can get behind, whether you're religious or not. So so it's not necessarily that we are, we're trying to quote unquote preach to the choir. We're just trying to spread a positive message through song for everybody.
Yeah, but that goes to show you how you can take gospel music and take it anywhere, and people respond to it regardless of what setting you're in. Because I mean, I've been at Fat Cat and I saw you there. And I've been in other places that I have seen groups singing spiritual music in a different setting, and people are just jumping up and carrying on as if they was in church. So if that's what it takes
Yes.
to get the word out there,
Yes.
then I think it's okay.
And I got to admit, when I sing it, I bring it. I mean, maybe I'm guilty of that. I don't know. But I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, which is what it speaks about. And I'm very excited when I see other people really love hearing the message that we bring, even if it is one of God,
But see, the thing about that is, even you never know who you're singing to. There may be somebody in that crowd that needed to hear that song and those words. You never know who you touch.
And there have been times where that has been exactly what's happened, where we've had people to say, you know what, I may have been having problems with my family, and that song, took me back to when I used to go to church with my mom and dad, and so I'm going to go home and I'm going to actually call mom. And there was one instance where we sang a particular song, and this one gentleman came up at the end. He said, you know what, I was contemplating suicide, and my friend said, why don't you come on out here, listen to this group, and he said, it changed. It changed me. And it's like, again, that's what's like, you never know who is out there, who needs that smile, who needs that song. And that could be that saving moment. That's why you have to
Exactly.
go to and fro. Because the people in church are supposed to already know. That's why the Bible says, go to and fro, spreading the word. It's not always
They
about the
supposed
gospel
to
word.
already
It's supposed
know.
to be
So
about
let's
the
get that right.
musical
They
word.
supposed to know
Amen.
already.
Amen. That's true.
You wasn't add.
I think it's really amazing because, you know, when you first go into Fat Cat, you'll see everyone all over the place. But once we get on, everyone comes together and they're just so eager to hear what we have to say, you know, to experience us. And I think one of the main things is the way we sing. We sing with a lot of soul and feeling. So, like Cynthia said, you know, it really touches the hearts of people that are, you know, that are
Right,
listening to us.
right.
So I think it's really important, and that's a main factor in what we bring to the table, as far as, you know, singing with feeling and allowing people to really feel what we're
Well,
saying.
I can give you a good example of that. You know, you performed at the gospel concert last Saturday, and you know you sung some of the old time songs. And when it was over with, no, because we like those old time songs because you know that takes us back, and that really makes you feel what the gospel really is. You understand? I don't have anything against our new, you know, stepping up music, but that was the good music. And one of the ladies that was there, she came up to me and she was like almost in tears, and she said, "Oh my God, I haven't heard those songs in so long," until it just took me back. And I was thinking about my mother, because you know her mother had passed away and everything, and I was thinking about my family, and I mean, she was just so elated. And then when people started saying, "Sing more songs, I want y'all to sing more songs," that's how you know you are really you singing for the Lord, and you're doing a good job. When people said, "Encore, we want more songs."
Beautiful.
So that way you know that people, you have been touched. You have touched someone that was sitting out in the audience. And that's what you need to continue to do, is touch. That's what you want to do, is touch someone's life. And we don't even know how sometimes we touch someone's life. You don't even know you could touch my life just by sitting here talking to me.
That's true.
You know. But I know later when you get ready to sing, I'm going to be shouting. I know that. I already know what I'm going to be doing this now. Because, you know, when you get up there and start singing, it's time to put them shouting shoes on, because that's the kind of singing that you do from the heart. And I think that's how we should feel. That if it hit us, it makes you move. It makes you move. So now tell me something else about, you know, you growing up, you know, where you come, your hometown did you come from?
Well, like I said, my hometown is from Brooklyn. I've born here for all my life. Lived in the same spot my whole life. I've got the pleasure of traveling with the Gospel Queens to Europe, so I've been able to, you know, go out.
Okay,
Yep.
wonderful. All right. Okay.
Well, my dad was a Baptist minister, and my grandfather was a Baptist minister,
All right.
born in Long Island. So this really gives me an opportunity to do something that I really love. I can't say that I don't like doing pop music or top 40 or even hip hop, but this takes me back to my roots, and it also gives me an opportunity to give back to the people, which I love.
Exactly.
So I'm just very happy to be here. I'm one of the new guys on the block, and I've been very embraced by the ladies and by the band and by the band leaders, both Cliff, who is the one that really brought me in through one of my other friends from Music and Art High School, and from Jimmy, who's been very gracious and wonderful towards me as well.
I'm glad you said that, because you know that's very important to keep the group together. It's that you have to show love for each other. You have to support each other, and that's what I want you to do. I want you to love each other. I want you to stay together, because if I'm here 10 years from now, I'm gonna still be saying, "I know those Supreme Queens." So I want to thank you for sitting down and talking to me for a few minutes, and
You're welcome.
when you come back, you're gonna get ready.
Anytime.
So you better get ready to hear the Supreme Queens. So when we come back, we're coming back with the Supreme Queens.
Just to be closer to you, Lord. That's all I ask of you. Men can have the riches of the land, but with God I'll stand. Just to be closer to you. Anything I'll do. to you. Anything I'll do. Lord, if you want me to talk, Lord, speak to my heart. Lord, if you want me to walk, be my guide when it's dark. People scandalize my name, then I fast and pray. God has called me very clear. It sounds like music to my ears. It brings tears to my eyes. And these tears I cannot hide. Lord, I know, I realize I'm never
Trouble in my way.
trouble in my way.
Have to cry sometimes.
Had to cry sometimes. Trouble in my way.
Have to cry sometimes.
Had to cry sometimes.
Lay awake at night.
Lay awake at night.
That's alright.
That's alright.
I know that
Jesus, He will fix it.
after a while,
After a while.
trouble in my way.
Trouble in my way.
Have to moan sometimes.
I have to moan sometimes. Trouble in my way.
Have to moan sometimes.
Have to moan sometimes.
Lay awake at
I
night.
lay awake at night.
That's alright.
That's
I
alright.
know that
Jesus, He will fix it.
after a while,
After a while.
said something about
Stepped in the
a
furnace
long time ago.
a long time ago. Just a little while. T. I know a place. Ain't nobody crying. Ain't nobody worried. Only smiling faces. Lying to the races. Help me. I'll take you there. Come on, help me now. I'll take you there. Oh, help me, y'all. I'll take you there. Ooh, help me now. I'll take you there. I know a place, y'all. Ain't nobody crying now. Ain't nobody worried. No, no, no. Ain't no smiley faces. Lying to the races. Somebody help me now. I'll take you there. Help me, people. Yeah. I'll take you there. Come on and help me. I'll take you there. I need you to help me. I'll take you there. Come on, Jimmy, show me what you got over there on that keyboard. Play, 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 play. What you got to say, Mr. Guitar Man? Yeah, 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 yeah. Play, play. What you got to say, Mr. Bassman? I'll take you there. I know a place, y'all. I'll take you there. Ain't nobody crying now. I'll take you there. Ain't nobody worried. I'll take you there. Only smiling faces. I'll take you there. Lying to the races. I'll take you there. Yeah, yeah. Oh, help me, help me. I'll take you there. Help me, help me, help me, help me now. I'll take you there. Come on, help me, people. Yeah, come on, come and go with me. Come on and go with me. Yeah, come on, come and go with me. Yeah, come and go with me. Come on, come and go with me. You can go. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. Come on, go with me. You can go with me. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. Come and go with me. I know a place. Ain't nobody crying. Ain't nobody worried. Ain't no smiling faces. crisis. Simply the fire. Gently the fire. Like I'd be. Like I'd be. Without you. I got the bad news that I had all the symptoms, and I cried bitter tears.
opens the door, so that I might see every day. Every day He's blessing me. Every single day. Every day is a day. Is a day of Thanksgiving. I take the time to glorify the Lord today. He keeps on blessing me over and over again. He keeps on blessing me. Opens the door, so that I might see every day. Every day He's blessing me. Every single day. Every day is a day. Is a day of Thanksgiving. Take the time to glorify the Lord. Glorify the Lord. Glorify the Lord. When are you gonna do it, Queens? Today. Hey, hey. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. God has been so good to me. Every day He's blessing me. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. I take the time to glorify the Lord today. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. God has been so good to me. Every day He's blessing me. Every single day. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. I take the time to glorify the Lord today. I thank God for the moment when I worship His name. I thank Him for the sacrifice of His praise. There's no mystery to say how my God is every day, making my way out of the dark, bringing His light into my heart. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. God's been so good to me. Every day He's blessing me. Every day is a day of Thanksgiving. I take the time to glorify the Lord today.
Reach out, y'all.
Reach out and touch, somebody's hand. Oh, won't you grab somebody's hand? Make this world a better place. Oh, won't you make this world, if you can. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Oh, won't you grab somebody's hand? Make this world a better place. Make this world, if you can. Do-do-do-do.
We want to thank everybody so much for watching us tonight. We want to thank everybody here, the crew, these guys behind the cameras, everybody in the audience who's been in this hot room with us, sweating it out. I want to introduce you guys to the band, these musicians next to me. To my right, the beautiful T. We have for Tanya B. To her right, we have Tamiko. To her right is Aisha. And to her right is Cynthia. And as we always like to say, we would not be queens without our kings. So behind us, if you can see them, over there on the guitar, give it for Max. To his left, holding down those low notes on the bass, give it up for Mr. Mike. On the drums over here, we have the amazing, the incredible rhythm man himself, Ben. And of course, our leader extraordinaire over here on the keys, this is Jimmy. And we always like to dedicate each of our performances to our late leader, Cliff Driver, who was the founder and head of the Gospel Queens, who led us to this point. And we are hopefully going to do an honor to him and his memory by taking this as far as we can possibly go with your support. Thank you guys so much. My name is Brandy Thompson, And hopefully we'll see you guys at Fat Cat, where we are every Friday night at 9 p.m. Oh, and we'd like to come on out. Introduce our amazing host. Lottie, thank you.
Well, I just want to thank this dynamic group behind me tonight, the Supreme Queens. And if you've been watching today, I hope you have gotten something out of this, because if you have not, then I don't know where you've been with all this good singing. And I want to say to you that touch somebody, reach out and touch your family and neighbors, because we can't do anything without God. Because God is the head of my life and your life, and we know we can't do nothing without Him. So I want you to reach out and touch somebody. So let's thank these girls again.
Somebody can. Oh, come on now. Make this world a better place. Won't you make this world? If you can. Reach out and touch. Won't you reach out and touch? Somebody can. Grab somebody. Make this world a better place. Won't you make this world? If you
And before we go, we want to introduce the producer of the show, Expressions of Faith, Miss Gloria Chestnut. Let's give her a hand as she come out. Gloria Chestnut. Gloria, you want to say anything? Or you shy tonight?
Yeah, I'm shy tonight.
And one more time, we want to thank Jimmy and Dottie over there, our other assistant. And as you already heard, the great band. So, as always, on Expressions of Faith, God be with you, and we'll see you next time.